the Fox News channel has been accused by academics, media figures, political figures, and watchdog groups of having various biases in their news coverage as well as more general views of a conservative bias. Fox News has publicly denied such charges, stating that the reporters in the newsroom provide separate, neutral reporting. At times, the accusations of bias have led to back-and-forth conflicts between Fox commentators and political and media figures. For example, in 2009 the Fox News channel engaged in a verbal conflict with the Obama administration. Accusations of bias. Political figures. Former Democratic National Committee Chairman Howard Dean has referred to Fox News as a right-wing propaganda machine, and several Democratic Party politicians have boycotted events hosted or sponsored by the network. In 2007, several major Democratic Party presidential candidates boycotted or dropped out of Fox News-sponsored or hosted debates, forcing their cancellation. Similar accusations have been levied against Fox News in response to its decision to exclude Ron Paul and Duncan Hunter from the January 5, 2008, Republican candidate debate. In response, many individuals and organizations petitioned Fox News to reconsider its decision. When Fox refused to change its position and continued to exclude Paul and Hunter, the New Hampshire Republican Party officially announced it would withdraw as a Fox partner in the forum. While the network has been criticized for its tendency to support the Republican Party and its interests, David Frum, former speechwriter for George W. Bush, has also said, "Republicans originally thought that Fox worked for us and now we're discovering we work for Fox." Media figures. CNN's Larry King said in a January 17, 2007, interview with the Chicago Sun-Times, "They're a Republican brand. They're an extension of the Republican Party with some exceptions, like Rita Van Susteren. But I don't begrudge them that." Fox CEO Roger Ailes is an old friend. "They've been nice to me. They've said some very nice things about me. Not Bill O'Reilly, but I don't watch him." Writing for the Los Angeles Times, Republican and conservative columnist Jonah Goldberg indicated his belief that Fox News was rightward-leaning. "Look, I think liberals have reasonable gripes with Fox News. It does lean to the right, primarily in its opinion programming but also in its story selection and elsewhere. But it's worth remembering that Fox is less a bastion of ideological conservatism and more a populist, tabloid-like network." Fox News host Bill O'Reilly stated in 2004 in the context of the Iraq War that Fox does tilt right, but that the network does not actively campaign or try to help Bush Cheney. Media watchdogs. Progressive media watchdog groups such as Fairness and Accuracy in Reporting and Media Matters for America, have argued that Fox News reporting contains conservative editorializing within news stories. FAIR also asserted that in a study of a 19-week period from January 2001 to May 2001 the ratio of conservative guests to liberals on Special Report with Brit Hume was 56, and obtained similar data from other Fox shows. Accuracy in Media has claimed that there was a conflict of interest in Fox News co-sponsorship of the May 15, 2007, Republican presidential candidates debate, pointing out that candidate and former New York City Mayor Rudolph Giuliani's law firm had tackled copyright protection and legislation on the purchase of cable TV lineups for News Corporation, the parent company of Fox News, and suggesting that Fox might be biased in favor of Giuliani's candidacy for the Republican Party presidential nomination. Ownership and management. Australian-born media mogul Rupert Murdoch is the chairman and CEO of 21st Century Fox, the owner of Fox News Channel. He has been a subject of controversy and criticism as a result of his substantial influence in both the print and broadcast media. In the United States, he is the publisher of the New York Post newspaper and the magazine The Weekly Standard. Accusations against him include the dumbing down of news and introducing mindless vulgarity in place of genuine journalism, and having his own outlets produce news that serve his own political and financial agendas. According to the BBC website, to some he is little less than the devil incarnate, to others, the most progressive mover and shaker in the media business. Then presidential candidate George W. Bush's cousin, John Prescott Ellis, was Fox News projection team manager during the general election of 2000. After speaking numerous times on election night with his cousins George and Jeb Ellis, at 2:16 a.m., reversed Fox News' call for Florida as a state won by Al Gore. Critics alleged this was a premature decision, given the impossibly razor-thin margin, which created the lasting impression that Bush won the White House and all the legal wrangling down in Florida is just a case of Democratic snippiness. Others, such as researcher John Lott, have responded that, by this reasoning, Fox News and the other networks were even more premature in initially calling the state for Gore, a call made while polls were still open, and which may have depressed voter turnout for Bush, actually affecting the election, whereas the call for Bush later could not have, as the polls were closed by then. On January 9, 2010, the son-in-law of News Corporation CEO Rupert Murdoch and the husband of Murdoch's daughter Elizabeth, Matthew Freud, stated he and other members of the media mogul's family are ashamed and sickened by the right-leaning tendencies of Fox News in the opening salvo in a bid to displace Roger Ailes, the founder and CEO of Fox News. In the previous Sunday New York Times news story featuring a profile on Roger Ailes, Freud was quoted saying, "I am by no means alone within the family or the company in being ashamed and sickened by Roger Ailes' horrendous and sustained disregard of the journalist standards that News Corporation, its founder and every other global media business aspires to. What you heard was a declaration of war. There are, practically speaking, now two factions inside of News Corporation, Ailes and Fox News, and the Murdoch children with Rupert caught between them." Although Rupert Murdoch did not respond to the remark directly, a spokesperson for News Corporation put a statement after a Financial Times inquiry claiming OE Matthew Freud unregistered trademark's opinions are his own and in no way reflect the views of Rupert Murdoch, who is proud of Roger Ailes and Fox News. Tim Arango also claims in Murdoch's 2008 biography that he voiced concerns privately to Ailes about his conduct, claiming he was purportedly embarrassed by Fox News. Murdoch denied that claim. In June 2010, News Corporation donated $1 million to the Republican Governors Association. News Corporation's Political Action Committee has previously split their contributions to Democrats and Republicans by a margin of 54% to 46%, respectively. Reports, polls, surveys and studies. Polls and surveys. A poll conducted by Rasmussen Reports during September 2004 found that Fox News was seen as second to CBS as the most politically biased network in the public view. 37% of respondents thought CBS, in the wake of the Memegate scandal, was trying to help elect John Kerry, while 34% of respondents said they believed that Fox's goal was to help elect Bush. However, a poll conducted by Public Policy Polling in January 2010 found Fox News to be the only U.S. television news network to receive a positive rating by the public for trustworthiness, with results strongly split depending on the political affiliation of the respondents. A survey by the Pew Research Center for the People and the Press showed a striking rise in the politicization of cable TV news audiences. This pattern is most apparent with the fast-growing Fox News channel. Another Pew survey of news consumption found that Fox News has not suffered a decline in credibility with its audience, with 1 in 4 saying they believe all or most of what they see on Fox News Channel, virtually unchanged since Fox was first tested in 2000. According to the results of a 2006 study by the Project for Excellence in Journalism, a survey of 547 journalists found that Fox was most frequently cited by surveyed journalists as an outlet taking an ideological stance in its coverage, and most identified as advocating conservative political positions, with 56% of national journalists citing Fox News as being especially conservative in its coverage of news. Additionally, Fox was viewed as having the highest profile as a conservative news organization. It was cited unprompted by 69% of national journalists. Studies and reports. The A 2011 State of the News Media report by the Pew Center on Excellence in Journalism found that in 2010, Fox News Channel had average daytime audience of 1.2 million and nighttime viewership of 1.1 million, higher than its cable competitors but down 11% and 9% respectively from 2009. Fox's cumulative audience was 41.1 million, coming in second to CNN with 41.7 million. For 2010, CNN's digital network continued to lead Fox's digital network online. CNN with 35.7 million unique visitors per month, compared to Fox's 15.5 million. For the first time, Fox outspent its competitors, with a total news investment of $686 million. 72% of this investment went to program costs, reflecting their focus on high-profile hosts. They also increased their revenue 17% over 2009 to $1.5 billion, well ahead of second-place CNN at $1.2 billion. Content analysis studies. The Project on Excellence in Journalism report in 2006 showed that 68% of Fox cable stories contained personal opinions, as compared to MSNBC at 27% and CNN at 4%. The content analysis portion of their 2005 report also concluded that Fox was measurably more one-sided than the other networks, and Fox journalists were more opinionated on the air. A 2006 University of California, Berkeley study cited that there was a correlation between the presence of the Fox News channel in cable markets and increases in Republican votes in those markets. Studies of reporting bias. In a 2006 academic content analysis of election news, Rasmussen reports showed that coverage at ABC, CBS, and NBC was more favorable toward Kerry than Bush, while coverage at Fox News Channel were more favorable toward Bush. In a 2010 study of the news coverage of the 2004 political party conventions, Morris and Francia found that Fox News reporting was more negative toward the Democratic convention and gave Republicans more opportunity to voice their message than the other networks. The study also found that viewers who relied on Fox News coverage exhibited attitude change toward both candidates, but particularly a lowering opinions toward John Kerry. In contrast, the study found that CNN's coverage was more fair and balanced. A study published in November 2005 by Tim Groseclose, a professor of political science at UCLA, scoring political bias from 20 mainstream news reporting outlets, concluded that all except Fox News' unregistered trademark special report and The Washington Times, received scores to the left of the average member of Congress. In particular, Fox News' special report with Brit Hume had an Americans for Democratic Action rating that was right of the political center. Groseclose's model used the number of times a host cited a particular think tank on his or her program and compared it with the number of times a member of the U.S. Congress cited a think tank, correlating that with the politician's Americans for Democratic Action rating. Jeff Nunberg, a professor of linguistics at UC Berkeley and a National Public Radio commentator, criticized the methodology of the study and labeled its conclusions invalid. He pointed to what he saw as a Groseclose's reliance on interpretations of facts and data that were taken from sources that were not, in his view, credible. Groseclose and Professor Jeff Milo rebutted, saying Nunberg shows a gross misunderstanding of our statistical method and the actual assumptions upon which it relies. Mark Lieberman, who helped post Groseclose and Milo's rebuttal, later posted how the statistical methods used to calculate this bias pose faults. Mark concluded that many if not most of the complaints directed against G&M are motivated in part by ideological disagreement just as much of the praise for their work is motivated by ideological agreement. It would be nice if there were a less politically fraught body of data on which such modeling exercises could be explored. A December 2007 study examination by Robert Lichter of a self-described nonpartisan media watchdog group, the Center for Media and Public Affairs, found that Fox News's evaluations of all of the 2008 Democratic presidential candidates combined was 51% positive and 49% negative, while the network's evaluations of the Republican presidential candidates 51% negative and 49% positive. The study, however, did find that Fox's coverage was less negative toward Republican candidates than the coverage of broadcast networks. A study by Media Matters for America found that between August 1 and October 1, 2013, on Fox News 69% of guests and 75% of mentions cast doubt on climate science, compared to half of those quoted in the Wall Street Journal. About 29% in the Los Angeles Times, about 17% in the Washington Post and about 12% in Bloomberg News. Fox News defended the criticism that they were disproportionately representing the views of climate contrarians by denying the 97% expert consensus on human-caused global warming. A 2012 report by the Union of Concerned Scientists found that 93% of global warming coverage by Fox News was misleading. The report put the figure slightly lower, €81% for the Wall Street Journal. The misleading statements identified in the report included dismissals of human-caused climate change, disparaging comments about individual scientists, rejections of climate science as a body of knowledge, and cherry-picking of data. Croft concluded that Fox News coverage glorified the Iraq War and its reporting framed the discussion in such a way as to drown out critics. He quotes Christina Manpour as stating that there was a culture of self-censorship created by the administration and its foot soldiers at Fox News. Tests of knowledge of Fox viewers, a study by the Program on International Policy Attitudes at the University of Maryland School of Public Affairs, as published in the winter 03-04 issue of the Political Science Quarterly, reported that poll-based findings indicated that viewers of Fox News, the Fox Broadcasting Company and local Fox affiliates were more likely than viewers of other news networks to hold three misperceptions. 67% of Fox viewers believe that the U.S. has found clear evidence in Iraq that Saddam Hussein was working closely with the al-Qaeda terrorist organization. The belief that the U.S. has found weapons of mass destruction in Iraq was held by 33% of Fox viewers and only 23% of CBS viewers, 19% for ABC, 20% for NBC, 20% for CNN and 11% for NPR-PBS. 35% of Fox viewers believe that the majority of people in the world favor the U.S. having gone to war with Iraq. In response, Fox News frequent guest Ann Coulter characterized the PIPA findings as misperceptions of pointless liberal factoids, and called it a hoax poll. Bill O'Reilly called the study absolute crap. Roger Ailes referred to the study as an old push poll. James Taranto, editor of OpinionJournal.com, The Wall Street Journal Euro's online editorial page, called the poll pure propaganda. PIPA issued a clarification on October 17, 2003, stating that the findings were not meant to and cannot be used as a basis for making broad judgments about the general accuracy of the reporting of various networks or the general accuracy of the beliefs of those who get their news from those networks. Only a substantially more comprehensive study could undertake such broad research questions, and clarified that the correlation between viewing Fox News and holding misperceptions does not prove that Fox News presentation caused the misperceptions. PIPA also conducted a statistical study on purported misinformation evidenced by registered voters before the 2010 election. According to the results of the study, false or misleading information is widespread in the general information environment. But viewers of Fox News were more likely to be misinformed on specific issues when compared to viewers of comparable media, that this likelihood also increased proportionally to the frequency of viewing Fox News and that these findings showed statistical significance. Media critic David Zurawik pointed to what he saw as weaknesses in the study, such as that certain government agencies are defined as holding the true positions on issues and that the study didn't differentiate between the influences of FNC shows as opposed to political ads that aired within shows. A 2007 Pew Research Center poll of general political knowledge indicated that Fox News Channel viewers scored 35% in the high knowledge area, the same as the national average. This was not significantly different than local news, network news and morning news, and was slightly lower than CNN. Viewers of the O'Reilly factor scored in the high category along with Rush Limbaugh, NPR, major newspapers, News Hour with Jim Lehrer, The Daily Show and The Colbert Report. A 2010 Stanford University survey found more exposure to Fox News was associated with more rejection of many mainstream scientists' claims about global warming, and with less trust in scientists. A 2011 Kaiser Family Foundation survey on U.S. misperceptions about healthcare reform found that Fox News viewers had a poorer understanding of the new laws and were more likely to believe in falsehoods about the Affordable Care Act, such as cuts to Medicare benefits and the death panel myth. A 2010 Ohio State University study of public misperceptions about the so-called Ground Zero Mosque, officially named Park 51, found that viewers who relied on Fox News were 66% more likely to believe incorrect rumors than those with a low reliance on Fox News. In 2011, a study by Fairleigh Dickinson University found that New Jersey Fox News viewers were less well-informed than people who did not watch any news at all. The study employed objective questions, such as whether Hosni Mubarak was still in power in Egypt. Internal memos and emails, daily memos. Fox News executives exert a degree of editorial control over the content of their daily reporting. In the case of Fox News, some of this control comes in the form of daily memos issued by Fox News Vice President of News, John Moody. In the documentary Outfoxed, former Fox News employees are interviewed to better understand the inner workings of Fox News. In memos from the documentary, Moody instructs employees on the approach to be taken on particular stories. Critics of Fox News claim that the instructions on many of the memos indicate a conservative bias. The Washington Post quoted Larry Johnson, a former part-time Fox News commentator, describing the Moody memos as talking points instructing us what the themes are supposed to be, and God help you if you stray. Former Fox News producer Charlie Rayner explained, "The roots of Fox News Channel's day-to-day on-air bias are actual and direct. They come in the form of an executive memo distributed electronically each morning, addressing what stories will be covered and, often, suggesting how they should be covered. To the newsroom personnel responsible for the channel's daytime programming, the memo is the Bible. If, on any given day, you notice that the Fox anchors seem to be trying to drive a particular point home, you can bet the memo is behind it." Photocopied memos from John Moody instructed the network's on-air anchors and reporters to use positive language when discussing pro-life viewpoints, the Iraq War, and tax cuts, as well as requesting that the Abu Ghraib prisoner abuse scandal be put in context with the other violence in the area. Such memos were reproduced for the film Outfoxed, which included Moody quotes such as, "The soldiers, seen on Fox in Iraq in the foreground should be identified as sharpshooters, not snipers," which carries a negative connotation. 2 days after the 2006 election, the Huffington Post reported they had acquired a copy of a leaked internal memo from Mr. Moody that recommended, L.'s be on the lookout for any statements from the Iraqi insurgents, who must be thrilled at the prospect of a Dem-controlled Congress. Within hours of the memo's publication, Fox News anchor Martha McCallum went on air on the program The Live Desk with reports of Iraqi insurgents cheering the firing of Donald Rumsfeld and the results of the 2006 congressional election. Bill Salmon emails. In December 2010, Media Matters for America released a leaked October 2009 email between Fox News Washington managing editor Bill Salmon and the network's senior producers, which seemed to issue directives slanting Fox News coverage of President Barack Obama's health care reform efforts. In the email, Salmon instructed producers to not use the phrase public option when discussing a key measure of President Obama's reform bill, and instead use the terms government option, or government-run health insurance, noting negative connotations. Salmon also suggested that the qualifier so-called be said before any proper mention of the public option. Another email by Fox News senior vice president Michael Clement accepted Salmon's conditions. Critics claim that Salmon took advice from Republican pollster Frank Luntz, who appeared on Hannity shortly before the email was written and made the same suggestions in identifying the public option. Critics also noticed that reporters and panelists on Special Report with Bret Baier used the term public option before the email was sent, but used the term government option immediately afterwards. Salmon, in an interview with Howard Kurtz for the Daily Beast, defended the directive and denied he was trying to skew Fox News coverage. Later that month, Media Matters released an email by Salmon from December 2009, in which he pressured Fox News reporters to assert that theories are based upon data that critics have called into question in light of the Climategate controversy. Wikipedia edits. In August 2007, a new utility, Wikiscanner, revealed that Wikipedia articles relating to Fox News had been edited from IP addresses owned by Fox News, though it was not possible to determine exactly who the editors were. The tool showed that the article for Shepard Smith was edited from Fox computers, removing mention of an arrest. The information was restored. Photo manipulation. On the July 2, 2008 edition of Fox and Friends, co-hosts Brian Kilmeade and Steve Doocy aired photos of New York Times reporter Jack Steinberg and Times television editor Stephen Redcliffe that appeared to have been crudely doctored, apparently in order to portray the journalists unflatteringly. This occurred during a discussion of a piece in the June 28 edition of the New York Times, which pointed out what Steinberg called ominous trends in Fox News ratings. According to Media Matters, the photos depict New York Times reporter Jack Steinberg with yellow teeth, his nose and chin widened, and his ears made to protrude further. The other image, of Times television editor Stephen Redcliffe, had similar yellow teeth, as well as dark circles under his eyes, and his hairline has been moved back. During the discussion, Doocy called the Times report, written by Steinberg, a hit piece ordered up by Redcliffe. The broadcast then showed an image of Steinberg's face superimposed over a picture of a poodle, while Redcliffe's face was superimposed over the man holding the poodle's leash. Times culture editor Sam Sifton called the photo that was aired on Fox disgusting, and the criticism of the paper's reporting a specious and meritless claim while denying that it was a hit piece. September 12 newspaper ad controversy. On September 18, 2009, Fox News Channel took out full-page ads in The Washington Post, The New York Post, and The Wall Street Journal with a prominent caption reading, "How did ABC, CBS, NBC, MSNBC, and CNN miss this story?" With pictures of a Tea Party movement protest on the United States Capitol lawn. A still picture in the ad was in fact taken from a CNN broadcast covering the event. The veracity of this ad was called into question in the air by then CNN commentator Rick Sanchez, along with others pointing to various coverage of the event. CNN, NBC, CBS, MSNBC, and CBS Radio News provided various forms of live coverage of the rally in Washington throughout the day on Saturday, including the lead story on CBS Evening News. Fox News Vice President of Marketing, Michael Tamaro, responded, "It's fair to say that from the Tea Party movement to Acorn to the march on September 12, the networks either ignored the story, marginalized it or misrepresented the significance of it altogether." Obama administration conflict with Fox News. In September 2009, the Obama administration engaged in a verbal conflict with Fox News Channel. On September 20, 2009, President Obama appeared on all the major news programs except Fox News, a snub partially in response to remarks about the president by commentators Glenn Beck and Sean Hannity and general coverage by Fox with regard to Obama's healthcare proposal. Fox News Sunday host Chris Wallace called White House administration officials crybabies in response. Following this, a senior Obama advisor told U.S. News that the White House would never get a fair shake from Fox News. In late September 2009, Obama senior advisor David Axelrod and Roger Ailes met in secret to try to smooth out tensions between the two camps without much success. 2 weeks later, White House officials referred to FNC as a Euro-OE news network, Communications Director Anita Dunn asserting that a Euro-OE Fox News often operates as either the research arm or the communications arm of the Republican Party. A Euro President Obama followed with, "If media is operating basically as a talk radio format, then that's one thing, and if it's operating as a news outlet, then there's another," and then White House Chief of Staff Rahm Emanuel stated that it was important to not have the CNNs and the others in the world basically be led. In following Fox. Within days it was reported that Fox had been excluded from an interview with administration official Ken Feinberg, with bureau chiefs from the White House pool coming to the defense of Fox. One of the major bureau chiefs stated, "If any member had been excluded it would have been the same thing. It has nothing to do with Fox or the White House or the substance of the issues." Shortly after the story broke, the White House admitted to a low-level mistake, but said that Fox had not made a specific request to interview Feinberg. Fox White House correspondent Major Garrett responded by stating that he had not made a specific request, but that he had a standing request from me as senior White House correspondent on Fox to interview any newsmaker at the Treasury at any given time news is being made. On November 8, 2009, the Los Angeles Times reported that an unnamed Democratic consultant was warned by the White House not to appear on Fox News again. According to the article, Anita Dunn claimed in an email to have checked with colleagues who deal with TV issues, and had been told that nobody had been instructed to avoid Fox. Patrick Goodell, a Fox News contributor and former pollster for President Jimmy Carter, said he had spoken with other Democratic consultants who had received similar warnings from the White House. Video footage manipulation. Jon Stewart reported on his November 10, 2009, broadcast of The Daily Show that Fox News pundit Sean Hannity misrepresented video footage purportedly showing large crowds on a healthcare protest orchestrated by Representative Michelle Bachmann. Stewart showed inconsistencies in alternating shots according to the color of the sky and tree leaves, showing that spliced in the shots was footage from Glenn Beck's much larger 9/12 rally which had occurred 2 months earlier. Hannity estimated 20,000 protesters were in attendance. The Washington Post estimated 10,000 and Luke Rosette reported that 3 Capitol Hill police officers guessed about 4,000. Sean Hannity apologized to his viewers for the error during his November 11, 2009 broadcast. Stewart also has periodically accused Fox of playing video footage out of context, such as when Sean Hannity played footage of Obama stating the DREAM Act could not be passed by executive order to make the president seem hypocritical, even though when the footage is continued Obama goes on to clarify that the president does have the authority to halt deportations. On November 18, 2009, Fox News anchor Greg Jarrett told viewers that a Sarah Palin book signing in Grand Rapids, Michigan, had a massive turnout while showing footage of Palin with a large crowd. Jarrett noted that the former Republican vice presidential candidate is continuing to draw huge crowds while she's promoting her brand new book, adding that the images being shown were some of the pictures just coming into us, the lines earlier had formed this morning. The video was actually taken from a 2008 McCain-Palin campaign rally. Fox Senior Vice President of News Michael Clement issued an initial statement saying, "This was a production error in which the copy editor changed a script and didn't alert the control room to update the video." Fox offered non-air apology the following day during the Same Happening Now segment, citing regrets for what they described as a video error with no intent to mislead. Criticisms of pundits. Notable pundits. Glenn Beck, the host of an eponymous afternoon commentary show, stated in 2009 that he believes President Obama is a racist, and has a deep-seated hatred for white people or the white culture. These remarks drew criticism, and resulted in a boycott promulgated by Color of Change. The boycott resulted in 80 advertisers requesting their ads be removed from his programming, to avoid associating their brands with content that could be considered offensive by potential customers. He later apologized for the remarks, telling Fox News Sunday anchor Chris Wallace that he has a big fat mouth, and miscast as racism what is actually, as he theorizes, Obama's belief in black liberation theology. Glenn Beck left Fox News in June 2011 after 29 months with the network. Neil Cavuto, who is also Fox News Vice President of Business News and a current member of the network's executive committee, was described as a Bush apologist by critics after conducting an allegedly deferential interview with President George W. Bush. Democratic strategists and politicians boycotted Cavuto's show in 2004 after he claimed, on air, that al-Qaeda leader Osama bin Laden was rooting for Senator John Kerry. Cavuto has also received criticism for gratuitous footage and photos of scantily clad supermodels and adult film stars on his show, Your World with Neil Cavuto. Alan Colmes is touted by Fox as a hard-hitting liberal, who was used to counter the conservative opinions of his co-host, conservative talk radio personality Sean Hannity on the political debate program Hannity and Colmes. However, while speaking to USA Today, he said, "I'm quite moderate." He has been characterized by several newspapers as being Sean Hannity's sidekick. Liberal commentator and future Minnesota Senator Al Franken lambasted Colmes in his book, Lies and the Lying Liars Who Tell Them. Throughout the book, Colmes' name is printed in smaller type than all other words to emphasize Franken's belief that Colmes' role was to feebly defend liberal positions, allowing him to be bulldozed by Hannity. Franken accuses him of refusing to ask tough questions during debates and neglecting to challenge erroneous claims made by Hannity or his guests. John Gibson, the former host of an afternoon hour of news coverage called The Big Story, was cited as an example of Fox News blurring the lines between objective reporting and opinion editorial programming. Gibson angered some people immediately after the 2000 presidential election controversy when, during the opinion segment of his show, Gibson said, "Is this a case where knowing the facts actually would be worse than not knowing? I mean, should we burn these ballots, preserve them in amber, or shred them? And George Bush is going to be president. And who needs to know that he's not a legitimate president?" In an opinion piece on the Hutton inquiry decision, Gibson said the BBC had a frothing-at-the-mouth anti-Americanism that was obsessive, irrational and dishonest, and that the BBC reporter, Andrew Gilligan, insisted on air that the Iraqi army was heroically repulsing an incompetent American military. In reviewing viewer complaints, Ofcom ruled that Fox News had breached the program code in 3 areas: respect for truth, opportunity to take part, and personal opinions expressed must not rest upon false evidence. Fox News admitted that Gilligan had not actually said the words that John Gibson appeared to attribute to him. Ofcom rejected the claim that it was intended to be a paraphrase. Gibson has also called Joe Wilson a liar, claimed that the far left is working for Al-Qaeda and stated that he wished that Paris had been host of the 2012 Olympic Games, because it would have subjected the city to the threat of terrorism instead of London. Gibson ran a segment on the exchange between Ron Paul and Rudy Giuliani at the Republican primary debate on the motives of the 9/11 terrorist attacks. The majority of the segment was centered around the 9/11 Truth movement. Gibson said that the movement has infected many people including Ron Paul, though Ron Paul has never subscribed to 9/11 conspiracy theories, and believes that Al-Qaeda perpetrated the attacks. Gibson was also harshly criticized when, on his radio program, he repeatedly mocked Jon Stewart's reaction to 9/11 on The Daily Show. Some allege that this incident led to his dismissal at Fox. Stephen Milloy, the commentator for FoxNews.com, has been critical of the science behind global warming and secondhand smoke as a carcinogen. In a February 6, 2006, article in the New Republic, Paul D. Thacker revealed that ExxonMobil had donated $90,000 to 2 non-profit organizations run out of Milloy's house. In addition, Milloy received almost $100,000 a year from Philip Morris during the time he was arguing that secondhand smoke was not carcinogenic. Milloy's website, junkscience.com, was reviewed and revised by a public relations firm hired by JR Tobacco. In response to Thacker's disclosure of this conflict of interest, Paul Scheer, director of media relations for Fox News, stated that Fox News was unaware of Milloy's connection with Philip Morris. Any affiliation he had should have been disclosed. E.D. Hill introduced an upcoming discussion before a commercial break about a fist bump between Barack and Michelle Obama after the final 2008 presidential Democratic primaries by stating that the gesture was either a fist bump, a pound, or a terrorist fist jab, but never explained the term when the segment continued after the break. The incident was considered controversial among bloggers and political commentators. Hill apologized for her comments the next day. Dick Morris appeared several times on Fox News, including one appearance on Fox and Friends 2 days before the 2012 presidential election, predicting that Mitt Romney would win the election in a landslide. Morris was the least accurate major pundit in predicting the 2012 presidential election. After the election, Morris did not appear on Fox News for almost 3 months. Finally, on February 5, 2013, Fox announced that it would not renew Morris' contract. Karl Rove protested Fox News' calling of the 2012 presidential election for Barack Obama on November 7, 2012. Megyn Kelly then brought a camera crew to ask the off-air analysts team if they stood by their decision. After Rove continued to refuse Fox's decision, Kelly responded by asking him, "Is this just math that you do as a Republican to make yourself feel better? Or is this real?" Megyn Kelly drew controversy after making remarks in December 2013 reacting to a Slate article that postulated that Santa Claus should not be a white man anymore. On her Fox News segment, The Kelly File, she quipped that for all you kids watching at home, Santa just is white, but this person is just arguing that maybe we should also have a black Santa, adding, but Santa is what he is, and just so you know, we unregistered trademark read just debating this because someone wrote about it. Kelly also stated that Jesus was white later in the segment. Soon after, Jon Stewart, Stephen Colbert, Rachel Maddow, and others satirized her remarks. A few days later, she made additional on-air statements and characterized her original comments as tongue-in-cheek. Discredited military and counterterrorism editor, The New York Times ran an article entitled At Fox News, The Colonel Who Wasn't by Jim Rutenberg, revealing that Joseph A. Cafaso, whom Fox had employed for 4 months as a military and counterterrorism editor, had bogus military credentials. Other criticisms: criticism of media coverage, Outfoxed, a documentary film on Fox News by liberal activist Robert Greenwald, makes assertions of bias in Fox News by interviewing a number of former employees who discuss the network's practices. For example, Frank O'Donnell, identified as a Fox News producer, says, "We were stunned, because up until that point, we were allowed to do legitimate news. Suddenly, we were ordered from the top to carry Republican, right-wing propaganda, including being told what to say about Ronald Reagan." The network made an official response and claimed that 4 of the individuals identified as employees of Fox News either were not employees or had their titles inflated. CNN founder Ted Turner accused Fox News of being dumbed down, and propaganda, and equated the network's popularity to Adolf Hitler's rise to power in 1930s Germany, during a speech to the National Association of Television Program Executives. In response, a Fox News spokesperson said Ted is understandably bitter having lost his ratings, his network, and now his mind. "We wish him well." The Anti-Defamation League, to whom Turner had apologized in the past for a similar comparison, said Turner is a recidivist who hasn't learned from his past mistakes. Fox News, while covering a car chase, inadvertently broadcast a live suicide and quickly apologized as being a mistake. Al Tompkins of the Poynter Institute, stipulated by email. There is simply no excuse for this. It is sensationalism to carry it in the first place. Criticism of individuals. Media Matters, which has since announced a campaign of guerrilla warfare and sabotage against Fox, contends that Fox specializes in political sabotage by putting up moderate to conservative Democrats as token liberals against more staunchly conservative Republicans. It cites the following people as examples of this: Pat Cadell called the Democratic Party a confederacy of gangsters, and defended conservative writer Ann Coulter when she said she could not talk about former Senator and presidential candidate John Edwards if a homophobic epithet she used was off-limits. Susan Istrick known for her support for the defunct Democratic Leadership Council and once told Sean Hannity that she was his biggest liberal friend. Zell Miller a frequent guest on Fox News and a major critic of the Democratic Party. Miller spoke at the 2004 Republican National Convention. Another allegation of Fox's critics is that it sometimes ridicules protesters, especially ones for liberal causes. For example, during the 2004 Republican National Convention, Bill O'Reilly referred to some of the protesters as terrorists. Fox News online columnist Mike Straka referred to anti-war protesters at the September 24, 2005, march in Washington, D.C. as jobless, anti-American, clueless, smelly, stupid traitors, and protesters from hell. Iranian-Swedish newspaper commentator Baran Kianzad wrote in the Expressen newspaper that there are lies, damned lies in Fox News, in response to a Fox News story about allegedly Muslim violence in the city of Malmö. Paragraph, Sweden. The report focused on the borough of Rosengård where 2 out of 1,000 school students were ethnic Swedes. Kianzad wrote that rock throwing against police, firefighters and ambulance personnel happen not just in Rosengård and not as a Muslim custom. In August 2006, 2 Jordanian Arab freelancers who were working for Fox News as producers, resigned from the network, citing its coverage that month of the Israel's conflict with the militant group Hezbollah in Lebanon. Their resignation letter read in part, "We can no longer work with a news organization that claims to be fair and balanced when you are so far from that. Not only are you Fox News an instrument of the Bush White House, and Israeli propaganda, you are warmongers with no sense of decency, nor professionalism." On January 19, 2007, reports and commentary by Fox News personalities featured an anonymously sourced article in the conservative web magazine Insight that claimed that associates of Democratic Senator Hillary Clinton had discovered that Senator Barack Obama had attended a Muslim seminary as a child in Indonesia. The term Muslim seminary refers to a specifically religious form of madrasa. It was determined within days that Obama had instead, as he had said in his memoirs, attended first a Catholic and then a modern public elementary school. The latter was, as Obama had written, predominantly Muslim, and not a seminary of any kind. On January 31, 2007, The Washington Post suggested that because of FNC's reporting of the Insight article, Obama had frozen out the network's reporters and producers while giving interviews to every other major network. After the incident, John Moody, a vice president at Fox, wrote to staff, "For the record, seeing an item on a website does not mean it is right. Nor does it mean it is ready for air on FNC. The urgent queue is our way of communicating information that is worthy. Please adhere to this." In March 2007, the Democratic Party in Nevada pulled out of a planned debate to be hosted by Fox. Its spokesman cited a joke by Fox News CEO Roger Ailes, which hinged on President George W. Bush confusing the names of Barack Obama and Osama bin Laden, as evidence that Fox News is biased against the party. Fox News chairman David Rhodes responded to the cancellation by saying that the Democratic Party is owned by MoveOn.org. On May 25, 2008, Fox News political contributor Liz Trotter stated on the air, while talking about the presidential election, "And now we have what some are reading as a suggestion that somebody knock off Osama, on Obama. Well, both, if we could." She then laughed. She apologized for the remark on air on Fox News the next day, saying, "I am so sorry about what happened yesterday and the lame attempt at humor." Trotter and Fox News were criticized for the remark by the New York Times editorial board and others. In June 2007, when Louisiana Democratic Congressman William J. Jefferson was indicted on corruption, racketeering, and bribery charges, Fox News ran a video of Michigan Democratic Congressman John Conyers, also black. Conyers criticized the network for a history of inappropriate on-air mistakes, and the network's lackluster apology, and a second, more specific apology was issued. In November 2006, Fox News had aired footage of then-Rep. Harold Ford Jr. while talking about Senator Barack Obama. On September 5, 2011, Fox News criticized a speech by James P. Hoffa in Detroit calling for an army of voters to take the sobs out and give America back to Americans. But Fox edited out the mention of voters to make the speech sound like a call for violence. Fox News responses. In June 2004, CEO Roger Ailes responded to some of the criticism with a rebuttal in an editorial in the Wall Street Journal's Opinion Journal, saying that Fox's critics intentionally confuse opinion shows such as The O'Reilly Factor with regular news coverage. Ailes stated that Fox News has broken stories harmful to Republicans, offering Fox News as the network that broke George W. Bush's DUI 4 days before the election as an example, referring to Bush's DUI charge in 1976 that had not yet been made public. The DUI story was broken by then Fox affiliate WPXT in Portland, Maine, although Fox News correspondent Carl Cameron also contributed to the report and, in the words of National Public Radio Ombudsman Alicia C. Shepard, Fox News Channel sent the story ping-ponging around the nation by broadcasting WPXT's coverage. WPXT News Director Kevin Kelly said that he called Fox News in New York City to see if we were flogging a dead horse before running the story, and that Fox News Channel confirmed the arrest with the campaign and ran the story shortly after 6 p.m. Upon the release of Outfoxed, Fox News issued a statement denouncing MoveOn.org, Greenwald and the New York Times for copyright infringement. Fox dismissed the judgments of former employees featured in the documentary as the partisan views of disgruntled workers who never vocalized concern over any alleged bias while they were employed at the network. Ailes also shrugged off criticisms of the former Fox employees by noting that they worked in Fox affiliates and not at the actual channel itself. Fox News also challenged any news organization that sought to portray Fox as a problem with the following proposition: if they will put out 100% of their editorial directions and internal memos, Fox News Channel will publish 100% of our editorial directions and internal memos, and let the public decide who is fair. This includes any legitimate cable news network, broadcast network, the New York Times, Los Angeles Times, and the Washington Post. Former Fox News personality Eric Burns has suggested in an interview that Fox probably gives voice to more conservatives than the other networks, but not at the expense of liberals. Burns justifies a higher exposure of conservatives by saying that other media often ignore conservatives. Fox News personalities have also taken part in back-and-forth disagreements with media personalities such as Jon Stewart and Stephen Colbert. See also, Fox Effect, BBC Controversies, CBS News Controversies and Criticism, CNN Controversies, MSNBC Controversies, Press TV Controversies. References. External links: foxnews.com, News Corporation Fox's parent company, Museum of Broadcast Communications, Roger Ailes, Special Report, Fox The Naked Truth, Zoe Williams, The Guardian, The Fifth Estate, Sticks and Stones, an investigation of Fox News for the Canadian Broadcasting Corporation, 45 minutes, an analysis of the socio-economic and political impact of Fox News, Robert W. McIsney, Monthly Review, Volume 66, Issue 02.